Good afternoon. My name is John Hrusovsky. For the folks who I have yet to meet, I am the overall project lead for this initiative, and I will be, to a certain extent, your MC and host as we work our way through this. Welcome back for the folks who joined us in March. We had our first kickoff meeting, and now we're moving into the next phase of the project, and we're having what we call our Architect Community Forum. So again, thank you. If you are not in the audience here, but you're doing a watch party, watch viewing somewhere on campus, I hope it's not a party. I hope you're paying attention. Please designate someone in your room to send us an email to let us know how many you have watching from afar. So if you've got 10, tell us you got 100. So we can really build up the numbers. Before I move on to the agenda, two main objectives that I have for this afternoon. One is I really want all of you to have an opportunity to learn more about what will come in the architect phase. And that's important. So we will spend some time on that because all of you in one way or the other are going to be involved in this work coming up, and we want to make sure that you have a little bit better understanding of that. And two, it's a great opportunity for some of our business leaders, not just our executive sponsors, they'll be up here in a second, but also some of our ESC members, our business owners, technical owners to come on up and share the vision, the strategic direction that we're moving forward with. All right, so welcome. We just did that. The executive sponsor remarks, I'll ask our executive sponsors to come up here in a minute. We'll go through the architect phase at a high level from an overview perspective. We'll have the business and technical leaders to come on up and talk about their work streams and next steps, and then we'll have a little bit of opportunity for Q&A. We're actually going to have two opportunities for Q&A, one after the executive sponsors speak, and then two after the business leaders and project leads have an opportunity to speak. And then also, if we do not get to all of your questions, we will for sure answer those through our website like we've done in other forums like this. So there's the questions, enterprise-project@osu.edu. And then I'd like to invite the executive sponsors up to the stage. So I'd like each executive sponsor to introduce themselves, as well as they have a few minutes to talk through kind of their vision and their remarks related to the project. Thank you.
Bruce McFerrin, Executive Vice President and Provost of the University. And John, I'll just correct you. I liked the watch party a lot better than a watch viewing. A viewing here in Ohio is a sad occasion. A party is generally not, although I've been to some pretty sad parties, and I've been the host of most of them. So appreciate you setting that up. I think the two words for the day, the first, a phrase, thank you. Many of you in this audience have been very, very engaged to date with the progress that we've made, and the progress we've made is really substantial. The second word of the day is commitment, and so let me put them together. Thank you for your commitment, and know also that we're committed to the success of this project as well. It's one of the most far-reaching, complex, complicated things that we probably could ever track back in the history of the Ohio State University and identify. And when we take a holistic view of this and look out to the successful end in the future, it will truly have been transformational for this university, and that will come at the minds and hands of the people here and the people with whom we connect. And so thank you, and thank you for your commitment. Now let me see if this resonates with you. Anybody heard the phrase time and change?
Just a little bit.
You're all starting to hum, aren't you? Well, it's actually also not just the alma mater, Carmen, Ohio, but the title that we chose for the university's new strategic plan, which the board affirmed just a month ago. And what we're doing here with the Workday Enterprise Project is in fact central to the successful completion of that university strategic plan. So over the next 5 to 7 years, we're being vague because, plans come and plans evolve. If you've done a plan correctly, it's not the same at the end as it was at the start. And so as we think about time and change here at Ohio State and the things that we will accomplish over the next several years, at the heart of that are programs like this. And so the Enterprise Project is something we think about in that context, whether we're thinking about the process of recruiting and admitting students, advising them to success, the notion of sponsored programs of nearly $1 billion and hopefully growing through time in our research and creative expression enterprise, whether we're talking about the day-to-day success of our staff and how they are able to do their jobs, how those jobs will transform in the future as we give you new tools that actually make you more effective and efficient. This is at the heart of the strategic plan, and while Jeff will rightly argue that it fits very importantly in the operational efficiency pillar, it really is much more than that. It is interwoven throughout all that we do, and we have no choice but to embrace that as an enabling factor for all of our projects. As I said earlier, there's been tremendous engagement throughout the planning and foundational design elements of this project, and we're drawing that to a close. We've had some really intense discussions. Those of you who've been involved, have surfaced a lot more ideas than we feel we could chew on even now in this initial phase, and so we've had to make choices and prioritize. We've asked PricewaterhouseCoopers to come in and actually do an additional external eye assessment on the process we've taken to date, and Susan and I had a chance to speak with them yesterday, and I think it will be very, very helpful to us in identifying places where we put a little more elbow grease and some places where we think about whether transformation is better done now or later. So there'll be a lot of really good input that I think will help to guide us. And it will be at that point incorporating that external eye and combining it with the things that we see internally, the decisions we've made, that will really jump wholeheartedly into future phases of this. As we transition, though, there's incredibly important fundamental foundational work that needs to be done to prepare us for those steps. So we don't miss a beat as we move through here, but this is not a project where we want to 2 steps forward, 1 step back. We'd like to keep moving forward, and so using all of our available information to really ensure that we're making truly smart decisions that move us in the direction of success is really helpful and important. I'm committed personally to the success of this project. This will change the way we operate. It will change the future of our institution. I was in this room yesterday with the Ohio State University Retirees Association. This is a much more vibrant crowd. A fewer canes and walkers than I saw yesterday. But I loved the audience yesterday because I was telling them about strategic plan, about our framework plan. I touched on projects like this transformational change we're embarking on. And these folks on whose shoulders you're standing, by the way, these are the people that got us to today. And just like the work that they did to get us to today, it's your responsibility, it's my responsibility, it's our responsibility to leave our successors with that next great Ohio State University. And I'm confident that we can do that. We're going to do it smartly. It's the biggest project you can possibly imagine. And so we're going to be working through lots of different ideas, but we will succeed. This is something that is that important that we will see success at the end of this, and we will have made a difference. And a provost 3 times removed down the road will say to all of us sitting out there in those seats, if you wake up in the morning and you feel a little stiff, it's because we're standing on your shoulders. So let me stop here and just say thank you for the work that you've done today to date, and thank you in advance for the work that we're all going to do together going forward. Jeff, how about words from
Thank you. And I had so much fun at the Bruno Mars concert last night. I forgot my
His
notes.
hat is right down there.
I apologize. I want to thank you as well for the hard work that you all have put into the project so far, and also to welcome Susan. I know Bruce and I both join in welcoming Susan. We're delighted to have a partner to join our merry band in our executive sponsor group. And I want to thank Joanne. Is Joanne here? For all your hard work in helping keeping the HR module going over these past few months. I had the pleasure of attending a number of the sessions during phase one. Particularly, I met with a group of finance transformation leaders, and to be honest, it was a very healthy session that started with everyone coming to blows and hugging and then kind of gently tapping each other, and that's a good way to go, I think. So people fought for what they thought was right, but they also came to realize there's a lot more in common than it is different. And so as I pause, again, I'm sure the quote is attributed to Winston Churchill, you know, we're not at the end, we're not at the beginning of the end, but we're at the end of the beginning. And I think that's a good place to be. We have some results coming from PwC that Bruce mentioned. We have the data that you all have worked so hard on. And if the session I attended is an example, your dedication and your ability to work together and share differences and share commonalities is profound. And so we thank you for that, because I think it's on the shoulders of those that you mentioned, Bruce. There are things that are good and there are things that are not so good. And so some things aspirationally we need to make better, and others we need to just keep doing what we're doing. And what Bruce didn't mention in the strategic plan is that everything in public has 5 pillars. What he didn't mention is that many of those pillars have either one of our names on them as individuals and leaders, and our names reflect you, to be honest, not just us. We get the joy of the responsibility, but we share it with you all. And so as we think about ending phase one, collecting the data, and looking to the next phase, number one, we remain completely committed to this process. And this morning, Mike Papadakis shared with me the results of the accounts receivable discussion, and he had a big smile on his face. And I thought, well, that's unusual. You have a session like that, and you have a smile on your face. And he said, no, he smiles all the time, but about accounts receivable, never, because we do it 84 different ways. And to recognize that we can do it better, and we can be better and have a smile on your face is a great thing. And so I hope that momentum continues. Having said that, I wear the hat as your chief financial officer, and I won't be your chief financial officer if we spend a lot more than $200 million on the project, which, put in perspective, is perhaps one of the largest non-capital spends in our history. And it's a number that Bruce and I and Susan as well are committed to. In fact, we've begun to identify the funding source so that the cash is there to continue to pay the bills. But that then also means we need to be confident together that as we sail off into the next phase, that we're doing it in a collective sense, that we agree that we will be thoughtful. It sort of drives poor John crazy, but I've built 5 houses with my wife, and in our 5 house builds, John knows we've never had one change order, and all 5 came in on time and on budget. So I set this ridiculous standard for delivery. But the point is, how did that happen? Well, it's because we took the time in the early phases of our house design to agree what we thought was important, and you all are doing the same thing. And I'm pleased with what we've seen so far, in the sense that it will help us form and articulate a plan that, as we begin to launch the process of designing the software and implementing it, we'll have done it with great thought. And I'll give you one example, and then I'll stop too. One of the things that Bruce and I have talked about is that as you complete your work, whether it's accounts receivables or comp and class or a student advising initiative, we want to have every leader's signature on the piece of paper for that initiative to say, if this is the way we're designing accounts receivable, we, Dean so-and-so, we, Vice President so-and-so, agree this is how you should structure it. So then let's have the team go write the code to make it happen. And if we can do that collectively, I think we'll be wildly successful. So thank you again for your hard work, your enthusiasm, and I hope your readiness to now move on to what ought to be the most exciting part of this adventure, which is really rethinking the processes and designing the Workday implementation to make it happen.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Susan Basso. I'm the new Senior Vice President for Talent, Culture, and Human Resources. I wanted to start by saying to Bruce and John, I actually like the idea of a watch party because all week I've been thinking that this was my welcome party to Ohio State. So thank you all for coming. I'm also extremely honored to be up here and to share the stage with other senior leaders who care so much about the university and so much about this project. I will say that this will be my 4th ERP implementation in my career. I know you're probably thinking I'm a glutton for punishment. I probably am. But truthfully, it was really what excited me about the opportunity and really the reason that I chose to come to Ohio State. I think what we are about to embark upon together, what you have already accomplished together, is really quite remarkable and really is going to revolutionize how we deliver service to our employees and to our students. I think most of you probably know that prior to coming here, for the last 7 years, I've been at Penn State. I can assure you I have left that behind, and I am now a Buckeye, full-fledged. But I think there's some terrific lessons that I was able to learn from that implementation. As many of you know, we did end up asking for a little bit more runway before I left the university. Not really because we weren't ready, but because there were some challenges with integrations. It's a really heavy lift to go from a mainframe legacy system to the cloud. And so we just really felt like there was more time that was needed. But I think what is most exciting about these implementations is really, as Jeff and Bruce have articulated, you know, the opportunity to really transform our business processes. And I will say, I think there's some really exciting work that's already taken place. I had the great pleasure last week of sitting in on a readout of the team that was really working on the recruit to hire process, and really came away feeling wowed by the work that they have done. It's really, really quite impressive. And I think the lesson learned for me throughout these different ERP implementations has truly been, you know, we cannot treat these like IT or technology implementations. They really need to be treated like true business process transformation, because you can purchase and spend a lot of money on really fancy technology, but if you implement it over flawed process, you've really not gained anything. No efficiencies will be realized, and we really won't be a better institution as a result. So I think I echo my colleagues to say I think the work that you've been doing is terrific. I am so looking forward to partnering with you. I was incredibly engaged at Penn State on the Workday implementation. I intend to be engaged equally as much here at Ohio State. And again, I thank you for the work that you are doing, because it truly is an extraordinary lift that's really going to make a huge difference for the institution and leave a great legacy. So thank you very much, and thanks for the opportunity.
Great, thank you. Okay, so before the three of them leave the stage, we're going to take a few questions, okay? And again, I really appreciate you guys taking the time. I know you're incredibly busy, but we really appreciate the time. So Ann, I think, is going to give us the questions, and we're going to go from there.
Well, I'm ready for the questions from the audience. So raise your hand. We've got a couple of mic runners for you. We'd love to hear what you want to know from these three executive sponsors. It's a rare opportunity.
Ann, I have a question.
Great, go for it.
My question actually is to Susan. And Susan, I know you've been here just a couple weeks, but what's one of the key learnings that you've already learned since you've been here, not just about the project, but just about Ohio State in addition?
Wow. So far, I think probably the greatest thing that I've learned is the talent that exists here is really, really quite incredible. Lots of really smart people, an incredible amount of passion and dedication to the institution and to their work. So I think, that in and of itself is a great foundation upon which to build, and I think it really helps to ensure the success of, big initiatives and projects like this.
Thank you.
Now, see, I would have predicted that she said when she hears the words "we are," she would say "I-O." Because she's in her transition, that's right. Well,
I'm still in
Susan,
training.
Susan knows that before I left Penn State in 2012, one Saturday a year, I wore red socks under my blue pants.
I love it. For those of you who are viewing online or in a party or a viewing, send your questions to enterprise-project.osu.edu. We're ready online to answer your questions, and I see one hand raised. My mic runner's behind me.
Thank you. Susan, a follow-up to that question. What was the number one biggest, oh my God, moment you had at Penn State? An error you didn't anticipate, or something you could have done differently in the whole launch process with Workday, that if you'd only known then what you know now, what would you change in that regard?
That is a great question. Honestly, and this is going to probably sound amazing coming from a chief HR officer who is really supposed to be focused on all of the people aspects of this, I don't think you can underestimate the change management component of what we're about to go through. And I think the more socializing we can do, the more communication that we can do, the earlier we can do it. I think at Penn State we kind of took more of a just-in-time approach, because we kept feeling like, oh, if we roll things out too soon, people are going to forget. They're not going to, they're not going to remember how to use certain aspects of the system. So I think we could have done a better job of that. And I honestly had heard this from Jeff this morning, and he repeated it again. I really like the idea of really getting leadership to sign off on things and commit that they understand what the impact of the different aspects of this implementation are going to mean in their individual units and to the people that are going to be using the system. So I would say don't underestimate the change.
Bruce and I and Mike Hoffer, I know he's here somewhere, had the pleasure of spending 2 days out at Apple about a month ago, where we got to see the intersection of creativity, technology, and innovation. And in fact, their head of their Apple University was the former dean of the Yale Management School, so also an intersection of higher ed. And I can't tell you, just watching a place where they've implemented all these things and think in a creative, technology-driven way, and seeing how they behave both together and collaboratively was an inspiration, I think. And so I hope that that's where we end up, so that that challenge leads us to that place.
It's truly the emergent properties of what this system can do for us. We can't really anticipate now. I mean, we'll lay out a pathway that we have to build the technology to accommodate, but you all will discover things that even Workday has not seen before as we move through this. And I think that will be the power. And our job is to create a climate where that's embraced.
Thank you, and great question from Hal. Thanks for modeling for everybody else. That's how you ask a great question. We've got one from the folks online. Not sure who it came in from, if they're partying, viewing, or just video streaming from their desk. Question is, has the go live date changed?
I think we're still on track. I think you'll see shortly here, we're at a point where we need this last step of input to really guide us on the timing of those next steps. And we're already very ambitious throughout this project, from dates to finances to the change management itself. But we're continuing to push strongly here. Jeff?
So I'll add to that. The date has not changed as of today. That doesn't mean in the next month or two, as we finalize this work, that we may assess that there may be needs to change it, but there's no intention to, I believe, as far as any of us are up here are concerned today. But we want to make sure we're not precluding the flexibility to address things that may come up in the near term. But as of today, those dates are firm.
The successful end is right. It's right. It's do it right.
We talked
for the
about that this
institution.
morning, didn't we?
Yeah, I would just, Jeff and I were talking about this morning, and this might be another kind of the oh my God moment. You know, these kind of dates that you set in these projects, you never really know where it's going to lead, but these are dates that the institution sets, right? I mean, it's a date that we pick as a point in time, and I think to the point that Bruce made, and Jeff and I talked this morning, it's much more important to be right than to be, you know, to be forced to be put in a box or to meet a certain deadline. So we just want to be sure all the way throughout that we're supporting you and that all the resources are in place that we can, in fact, make the deadline. But, you know, if something happens and we have to regroup, you know, I think we have to be okay with that.
Great. Questions from the room? Okay, we've got one, another one from online, and it's for you, Bruce, specifically, but I think I'd love to hear everybody's
Is it a bug
response.
identification? I only do those by Twitter.
Thank you for that. The question is related to the project, what keeps you up at night?
It's the change management. You know, I've been through change in 2 different colleges at 2 different institutions. At Penn State, I actually had to reconstruct a college. The board instructed me to change if you think changing parking places is hard, try changing an academic department. And we were instructed to go from 12 to 6 or so in a year when the state's governor had decided that Penn State University was no longer a state institution and didn't really need taxpayer funding. And so you couldn't, and oh, by the way, we then had the Sandusky scandal that came in at exactly the same time in university leadership. So change is not something that frightens me, but it does make me think very carefully about the things we need to accomplish. Starting point is commitment, and it's followed close on its heels by a commitment to communication. We have to talk about what we're doing. We have to be honest. We have to have the highest integrity, because it's not about what happens to any one of us. It's what happens to the institution that we love at the end of the day. And so we need to get that right, and we'll only get it right if we're absolutely committed to the successful implementation, which is going to bend a lot of people's universes by the time we're done, including mine, Jeff's and Susan's as well.
Thank you. Susan, Jeff, would you like to respond to the same or respond
I
to
guess the
remarks?
good news is I don't stay awake at night. I think this is a phenomenal
He's been out late at
institution.
concerts.
I have, so I go right to bed. And we're in such great shape, you guys, that the institution is across all of the different metrics you care to look at, that we don't need to go to bed worried. At the late night or early morning, though, when I'm still awake, what I think about is making sure you all and we all assume good intent, because what Bruce just talked about requires us to check some things at the door and say it's okay to try a different approach. And I don't need to worry about what happens in my college or my unit, and all I'm going to do is protect that unit, because otherwise you cannot make these changes. The excitement we have has to transcend the work session to the design to the implementation. And so if I worry about anything, is can we all put that notion that good intent is not always there? Can we make sure we can affirm it together and go forward?
So actually, I think that's a fascinating question, and there's actually an HR expert out there who's very highly regarded, well-published, who talks about this issue of what keeps us up at night, and says that what we need to do is reframe that question and stop asking what keeps us up at night and ask what gets us up in the morning. And so what I would say about that is, you know, what are the kinds of things that get us up in the morning? And I know it is things like this, projects like this, exciting initiatives like this, at an institution like this, that drive me and, you know, make me want to get up every day and come in and do the work that I do.
Bruce, maybe could you share what you shared with me after your AAU Provost meeting about the discussion on energy?
So we were talking about teaching and learning, actually, with the AAU provost. The AAU, the Association of American Universities, is 62 select public and private universities. So high company there to start with. And so the room was engaged in a discussion of how you actually drive better learning in our students and what you can do to change teaching to create better learning environments and better learning outcomes. And it always gets down to money. So provost saying, yeah, we've done this in introductory chemistry, or we've done it in math, we've done it in physics. A couple of them have actually done it in a couple disciplines. Nobody's done it institution-wide, and it's not because they don't want to, they can't figure out how to more broadly incentivize it. And I said, well, you know, we just did this really wild thing at Ohio State. We actually spent 6 years crafting what turns out to be a 50-year relationship with a set of companies to manage our energy systems. And in return, at the front end of that relationship, they sent us a check for $1.015 billion. And so that's now in our endowment for us to use to advance university priorities. And one of the ways we're going to do that is we're able to take some of this money and actually invest it in faculty, graduate students, who actually take the time to learn to teach better and then demonstrate that it's having a positive impact on our students' learning outcomes. And the room was silent for a minute. And then the conversation turned away from teaching and learning, and they said, this isn't the first time Ohio State has done something like this. The take-home message is there's not a single other university among these 62 universities that is trying these bold ideas. And in most of them, if you talk privately to their top leadership, they're not even willing to talk about it because they can't imagine having those kind of conversations. Your university, the Ohio State University, is a place where all sort of dreaming takes place. And it's a place where we actually act on those dreams. And that can be frightening sometimes. But, you know, think about this, folks. You know, we're so afraid of the next change. What's going to happen? I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. It's going to be different. Look over your shoulder. All you see in the rearview mirror is the wreckage of change that you successfully navigated to get here today. But one tomorrow is not that big a deal. We'll figure it out. We'll be successful. And so, you know, welcome to the place that actually makes change happen. This is a brave place. You know, we take on some of these specters that scare other folks, and, you know, we have the ability to do it, and we're going to succeed in this one too.
I hope that gets us all up in the morning, Susan, because that's exciting to be part of that.
Yeah, so we have one last question, or time for one last. I want to say that if we don't get to all the questions now, okay, we got one in the room. Let's take the one in the room. There are a couple that came in online, and we're going to either address those in the next Q&A if we can, or the answers will absolutely be posted online. So let's take the question in the room, and we'll go from there.
The pressure. What you just said actually kind of segues nicely into my question, so thank you. I was wondering about a lot of what we did in Discovery was figuring out where we have pain points and moving forward with key decisions. And so I was just curious about the timeline of kind of dispositioning those key decisions and actually knowing what the next steps are with those.
I think we're actually going to hear a little bit about some of that as we move into the next set of slides, so it may actually be a great segue. Susan wasn't here yet, but one of the things Jeff and I worked on with John was taking all of the suggestions and actually trying to, you know, triage them in a way, put them into buckets, if you will, so that, you know, there are some things that we need to do simply because we're implementing Workday as a product. There are some things we can choose to do because we're implementing Workday, and there are other things that we would aspire to do at a time when we're changing so many other processes. And so we kind of categorized them 1, 2, and 3 and then tried to make some decisions about the steps we would take. That doesn't preclude necessarily doing some of the things that are on the horizon still in the context of the timeline, but it also gives us some guidance and scope for what we intend to accomplish through the enterprise project itself. There's a lot of change that we're going to want to accomplish here, and the trick will be, as we go through the next 4, 5, 6 years, actually figuring out the sequencing and contingencies of all of those different decisions.
And if I recall, Bruce, so most of what you all recommended is in the path forward. But there were some things that, quite frankly, we took a look at together and said, you know what, that would be a nice to have, but we don't think that's a key priority right now, or we don't think we can afford that, or it's not as critical as these other things. And so we did, you'll see, make some decisions that some things were better off to be revisited later so that we could really be successful on those core activities, the must-dos and the really importance to have that will really transform the institution.
Thank you for the great questions, and thank you to our executive
Yeah,
sponsors.
thanks to all of
Thank
you.
you.
I really
You're
appreciate you being
all
here.
doing the heavy lifting.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Follow instructions.
Thank you very much. Let's give them another round of applause. Back in March, they were the hit, and now they're still the hit as we move into September in this phase. So again, thank you. Okay, so let's bring Beth. Where's Beth? Beth, come on up here. She's going to join me. We're going to now talk a little bit more detail within the architect phase. Thank you, Jeff. Before we do that, though, I want to share this slide with you because there's a couple key things that are going on here that are really important for everyone in the audience or the viewing parties to absorb. And that is, this is a combination of business transformation and also system implementation. We've talked about that. I think that point was made once again by our executive sponsors. And it will allow us to enable the strategic plan. So that first kind of statement up at the top drives us every day. That gets us up in the morning. By the way, where's Ann at? When you asked the question about what keeps you up at night, I felt a little lonely up here about my, because they were answering all the questions. But what keeps me up at night is our new puppy. We have a little puppy that keeps me up at night. Okay, so but this is important. Modern systems, Workday is very modern, right? That's a key aspect of what our tagline is, what we're driving toward. More efficient processes, you heard that, and then a better Workday. That's a little play on the term Workday, but if you look at those 4 key points below that, advancing our mission, enabling the strategic plan, driving consistency across our business processes, and effective decision making. Those are really part and parcel to what we're trying to accomplish. If you don't already know this, our scope is incorporating all of finance, all of HR, all of payroll, student, and the technical areas that are impacted by those business processes. Go ahead. Our timeline. There was a question on the timeline, as our executive sponsors mentioned. That hasn't changed. We are moving forward with July 19 for core HR, payroll, and also financials. The one confirmation we made during the plan and foundational design phase was student. Student is projected to go live starting on the academic calendar over an academic year in July of 2020. So that is our current schedule at this moment in time. Just wanted to make sure we communicated that within this form. Okay, a couple key points. We brought this slide up back in March, and we talked a little bit about what planning was, what architect, config and prototype, so forth. So this is actually the same slide that we utilized during the March discussion. So I'm bringing it back because this ties us back to the architect phase, which we are moving into. So I'm not going to reiterate all these points, but I want to mention a couple points here that I think are important. That this is a new build for Ohio State from a configuration perspective, but this is not a custom build. And one of the things that we found out during the plan and foundational phase, foundational design phase, was that there were several people, tools, developed applications, especially in the student area, but it wasn't just applicable in the student area, where we identified those, and those are not all going to be covered by Workday. So one of the things we're going to have to figure out is how does that get also completed, the ones that are within our scope, within the time frame that we have. So it's not custom, but we have to address some functionality that's outside of Workday. And then lastly on this page, and then we'll move on, is we have to be able to be flexible to meet future needs. So as we work our way through this architect phase, and is ensuring that we are doing it in a way where we are creating the flexibility we need to adopt more enhancements that Workday implements and develops in their software as time goes on. Okay, so where are we with our construction, to use that analogy? We have done the work as it relates to plan and foundational design. And again, a lot of people, if not everybody in this room, was involved in that in some way. As our executive sponsors mentioned, we're having an independent assessment from PwC. It's being conducted right now. And that will, when that wraps up, we'll take the learnings from that and incorporate that into the deliverable to wrap up that phase. We have initiated the core foundational architect phase tasks, and that is in process. We plan on having architect end at the end of February of next year for finance and HR for release 1. However, student will go on all the way through 2018. And let me explain why that's the case. The first part of it's important to do architect with student part of that process because we're going to be implementing student. And as you all know, Workday is one integrated application. So it's really important that any touch points that student has with HR and financials are incorporated into architect. However, after that's wrapped up, we also need to then dive deeper into student for the rest of their architect phase. That'll, again, will extend throughout the rest of 18, and then it lines up with their go live in the July of 2020 timeframe. A couple quick goals on architect. We are going to design those future state business processes. Beth will talk a little bit about what we call our solution design package. She'll talk a little bit about what that is in a few minutes. We're also going to define, we've already started, but we're going to finalize and define our reporting and analytics requirements. We're going to finalize our technology requirements that are necessary, not just our business process and functional requirements. We're going to create any policy or service delivery recommendations that are necessary. Again, the executive sponsors mentioned that there is going to be a lot of change. Some of that change actually is reflective in policies that are going to have to change. So we actually have a whole work stream within our project that's focused on that. So I bring that to the attention from an architect perspective because this is where this will get addressed and identified and then resolved and finalized. And then lastly, we will confirm, we have approximately, I know Dave Kiefer's not here, but I think Kevin, 437 systems, I think, is on our list of systems that are being impacted by what we're doing. So just kind of take a deep breath and think about that. There are 430, the number's probably slightly different now, but last week when we talked, there was 437 systems that are currently utilized by the university that will be impacted in some way by our implementation, and we have to figure out what's going to happen with all those. So that's what that last point is. Some are going to continue to exist, and we're going to integrate in. Some can go away because they're not necessary. So that's a very, very critical function and critical effort that the technical team is leading as they work our way through this phase. So in a nutshell, that's kind of the goals of Architect. Beth, do you want to add anything to that?
Nope. I think you covered it, and I'll cover it on the next slide.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
Yep. So as you can imagine, and I think most of you are very well aware because you're involved in all of this, there are a lot of activities and deliverables in this phase. And this just reflects a high-level sampling of some of those key activities and deliverables by our various project work streams. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I do want to point out just a couple to give you a flavor for it. So, of course, under the business process work stream, really the heart of what's being done on this phase are those solution designs. So taking the great work from the plan and foundational design stage, each end-to-end business process is going to be looked at in much greater detail, mapped out, discussed, all through a series of design workshops, deep dive sessions, and even some prototyping. So that really is actually going to come up with the blueprint, if we use our house analogy, the blueprint for the build of our house. And I'll show you an example of that solution design package and what the draft version of that in just a moment. Moving over, it's under technical, but this really impacts all work streams, and that is the configuration tenant. A tenant is a Workday unique terminology, but you can think of it, again, with our house analogy, you can kind of think of it as an Ohio State specific home in a community of, tightly knit community of homes. So this will be the OSU instance where we will be building out the configurations, we'll be loading your legacy data. We're going to be building that as we go. And at the end of this architect phase, we will have a completed configuration tenant that will be used for the next phase, which is configuration and prototype. You can expect that it'll be about 75 to 80% complete in terms of the business processes, and we'll use the iterative activities in the next phase to really finalize the tenant. And then finally, under the organizational change management area, one of the key activities that's already underway is the learning approach. So we're not actually developing the training just yet, but what we are doing is spending a fair bit of time taking a look at all the various users and different target audiences and understanding how they like to learn, what the best way to train them on the system and the new processes. And so we'll be, whether that's they'd like to learn online or in instructor-led classroom or even a hybrid approach. So we'll be laying out that approach that we'll execute later in the project. Okay, next slide. So as I mentioned, just to give you a flavor, these next two slides, this is still very much in draft format. In fact, we had a great meeting this morning with some good feedback on what this solution design package is going to look like. So essentially, we are looking to have a single, one-stop shop, comprehensive summary of all of those end-to-end business processes and detailed workflows. So then our Workday team can take this summary, the approved final solution designs, and configure the system appropriately. This is going to also include functional technical requirements, the integration requirements, and then as John mentioned, we're going to be looking at all those systems and documenting how we're going to disposition each of those. And then the final point is around the key design key design decisions. The options will be listed and the decisions will be made throughout this architect phase. And then the next slide, this is just a visual of the detailed process flow. So we are looking at not only how the system is going to be configured, but also the processes around it. So things that happen outside of Workday and our systems.
Great. So I want to briefly mention a couple items. In a few minutes, we're going to have the business leaders and technical leaders come on up and from the university as well as from the project. Before we do that, though, there were several themes that came out of the plan and foundational design that cut across all the areas of HR, payroll, finance, student, and enablement. And they are, I'll just kind of quickly go through these, that we are, as much as we possibly can, going to create standard processes across the whole university community, including the Med Center, as well as the academic side or the university side. And one of that is a heavy lift in itself right there, but we're going to try to accomplish that as much as we possibly can because of the ability to streamline operations over a long period of time. We're going to automate as many processes that are manual today as possible. We're going to integrate university-wide data with common definitions. I would imagine that most people in this room are familiar with what the FDM is. That's our foundation data model. That is a really important aspect of this implementation. That is one data model that's going to be utilized across all the applications of Workday on a regular basis. And those definitions are going to be consistent. So we will not have the ability to have a field that's defined one way for a certain part of the organization and another way for another part of the organization. That will create efficiencies significantly from a reporting and an analytics perspective. And then lastly, and this is impactful to all aspects of our implementation, there will be greater options for employees, managers, especially students to conduct self-service activities. As a matter of fact, myself and Ann had an opportunity to speak to the Senate Steering Committee last week. And in that discussion with them, there were several students in that room. And we talked about the experience, their daily experience they have with their phones, and we translate that into the experience that they will have as students utilizing the Workday application. Now, unfortunately, most of these were juniors and seniors and are going to be gone, but for the freshmen and the sophomores, they'll be here for that. But the point is that there will be many more options to utilize your iPads and your mobile devices than before. Go ahead and go. Our work is organized in these interconnected work streams of student, HR, payroll, finance, and enablement. And we use the term enablement instead of technology or data because we are enabling the whole aspect. That's why it goes underneath across the functional areas, because they are enabling the functional areas to be able to do their jobs through the enablement of technology, data, security, and so forth. So as we bring up the folks, and I think we're ready to, I think next, yeah, the folks come on up to the stage. We'll have them get organized, and then we've got a couple videos that we're going to be going through, as well as each of them being able to speak through their specific areas. Okay?
Hi, I'm Jack Miner. I'm University Registrar and Executive Director of Enrollment Services. I'm here today to talk a little bit about the Enterprise Project. The Enterprise Project, at its root, is an opportunity for Ohio State to bring modern technology and leverage our technology resources in order to better serve our students. It'll provide a mobile adaptive environment for our students, and it will also provide an opportunity for our students to best engage with the resources that we provide at Ohio State. One of the things that we did collaboratively as an institution in working through the Enterprise Project is developing a series of guiding principles. Those guiding principles are on your screen right now, but I want to talk a little bit about how we develop those and how those will actually be actualized for the project. We developed those in working with students, university leadership, faculty and staff, and various Senate committees across campus. The opportunity was really one to think about what is at the root of what we're trying to accomplish with the Enterprise Project. I want to talk a little bit about one of those guiding principles around academic advising. With academic advising, one of the things we'll be able to do is specifically provide students an opportunity to plan out their degree for the 4 years that they're here and show them how individual changes to that degree plan, including substituting classes, can impact their time to degree and their student debt ratio. For an institution, we're also able to mine that data and able to better plan what are the interests of our students and how can we better plan a course offering pattern for them over the time that they're at Ohio State. I hope that you'll join me in making the Enterprise Project a success and helping to better serve our students. Thanks.
Thanks, Jack. That was wonderful. I don't think we need to say anything. We can probably stand over here and just smile, right? But I know John wanted us to say something. So what I'll do, yeah, you know, he's my boss, performance review, and yeah. I'm not going to read through the slide, but I wanted to highlight a few things, right? So the last phase, the plan and foundation phase, what we did was take a look into all our business processes for students. Like we had around 93 of them. We had conducted around 160 sessions to go through our processes. What we looked at, do we need the process? Yes. Can we improve the process? Yes. Right? Do we have gaps with Workday? In certain cases, we do. So we took all of those gaps, worked with Workday, and created some, worked with the product group, and we are still working on that. So this phase, as John pointed out, student has a little longer, right? The architect phase is a little longer. We're not going to waste the time. We're going to go deep in some of those sessions and design it so that we can really work through. I know John and Vaughn is going to talk a little bit about business process transformation on 2 of them. So I'll not waste any more time. I'll hand it over to John to talk through.
I am part of the team charged with enhancing, with transforming academic advising for undergraduates. I am speaking for that team when I say that we believe high-quality academic advising is important to student success and to an exceptional student experience. We know that advisors are committed to helping students, but we are working working to redesign the processes around advising to improve how advisors are able to support students. As one component of our analysis, we are identifying opportunities for using Workday's technology to better address the needs of our students and to assist the efforts of advisors. We are planning to provide more coordinated and proactive engagement with students, the better to support their success, once again, from first contact through and beyond their graduation. Here's Vern.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vern Granger. I represent enrollment services, but also the student work stream. And as I think about this project and some of the things that I'm looking for, I think about how great it would be for us to better utilize the technology that's out there that's going to allow us to do a better job of admitting and enrolling the incoming classes to support our goals of access, affordability, and inclusive excellence. Thinking about how to help our staff move away from these cumbersome processes that are from recruitment to retention to engagement, that's going to allow us to better engage students, to allow a better experience for all. I think about scholarships and how we want to be able to better connect our resource structure to better ensure that students are going to have access to all the available resources out there and help them find success in an affordable Ohio State experience. We all know that creating an exceptional student experience includes the ease of scheduling classes, managing course wait lists, obtaining a transcript, and much, much more through a modern, self-driven technology. And last but certainly not least, we want to be able to meet our students where they are by providing services and engagement based on their behaviors and their needs.
Hello, I'm Kimberly Shoemate, the Associate Vice President for Administration and Operations in the Office of Human Resources. I'd like to talk to you for a few minutes today about the Enterprise Project, a business process transformation and strategic initiative for the university. We're going to implement a new system that will allow us to really provide better service to our HR and payroll community and the university at large. Especially for you HR and payroll employees, we're going to be able to focus you more on the strategic work that your clients really need and allow some of the processes that currently are being done manually to be enabled by our new Workday system. Really excited about the work that's been done so far by everyone on the project team, both staff and administrators. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about the work that the staff and administrators have done the last few months, focusing on a set of guiding principles for this project. We're really going to make sure that as we do this work, we do it the right way and enable both the business process transformation and the system implementation. On the HR side, one of the things we're most looking forward to is the opportunity to really establish a university-wide onboarding approach. You all know the statistics, that if you really focus on those new employees within their first year and focus on retaining them, you've got a much better chance of having a stable workforce. We're excited to be able to bring a university-wide onboarding platform that will really give every new employee for the first time the same view of Ohio State and the great benefits that they inherit as new employees here, really helping get them established firmly in our Buckeye traditions and the way that we do our work. Moving along, we'd like to make sure that everyone is fully engaged in this project, that we make sure that we've got all of your input and enthusiasm. And for everyone who's already been involved, thank you.
All right, I'm Natalie Sisto-Means, and I am the Business Transformation Director for the Enterprise Project. And I'm thrilled to be talking a little bit about the strategic direction for the HR and payroll work streams, as well as the architect phase focus in these areas. But first, just building on what Kim said, thank you. The type of work we're asking you to do is difficult. Lots of sessions, lots of workshops this phase, and you've stepped up in a big way to co-create the future, and I'm really motivated by your enthusiasm. So how are you going to maintain this going into architect phase? We will, and we're going to focus across all of these areas on designing those business process solutions, technical solutions, and reporting requirements that Beth and John outlined earlier. And across all of these areas, that means looking at how do we get to a better experience for our staff, for our employees, for our students, and our stakeholders. We're going to look at consistency in the data and in the processes that we have to support HR and payroll. And next slide, let's talk about a few of those notable improvements. Our leaders have identified a few areas where we're going to dive deeper in terms of transformation. We've done hard work already in the recruit to hire space to improve that experience, and Joanne will go into that in a minute. We're also taking a look at our HR service delivery models to align those to the enterprise project and make sure that we have effective structures there moving forward. And finally, we'll be looking at non-employee management. How do we make sure that people who have access to our systems and our facilities are doing so in the right ways and that we have consistency across the university community? Those are our areas of deeper transformation, but we'll also be looking at streamlining and standardization across the board. In payroll and time tracking, for example, looking at really making those more efficient and providing employees with more options, looking at some of those mobile opportunities as an example. But let's go deeper on recruit to hire.
Thanks, Natalie. I'm Joanne McGoldrick, and I'm the Associate Vice President of Total Rewards within the Office of Human Resources. And I'm really excited to talk to you today about the recruit to hire phase. And I'll tell you, I am bragging on the HR teams from the Medical Center, the university, and campus-wide who came together and worked hard to create one standard process. And what they looked at was the desired outcome, and it was truly to create an outstanding experience for our new hires as well as our hiring managers. The most important thing they did, though, was they listened. They talked to recruiting managers and acknowledged that those managers needed a streamlined and reduced time to hire process that gave them quality candidates. They talked to candidates who felt, hey, sometimes I'm in a black hole. I don't hear from OSU for months, and it's discouraging, and I don't ever apply again. And that's not the experience we wanted to provide. And then they talked to the employees in the departments who said, I'm tired of these vacancies lasting months and months, and I've got to pick up the burden of the work. So they got together, and they took a 461-step process down to 89 steps. But they didn't. Yeah, we'll take applause. Phenomenal, remarkable work. But they didn't stop there. They looked at what takes the time, and it's the rework within the process. So they're working on special requirement forms so they truly understand the needs of the hiring manager and how they can make that process easier and first-time final by getting a great role description and being able to get the comp right out of the gate. The other thing they looked at was background checks. And they were able to find if they went with one vendor, they could reduce the time of background checks from 5 days to 1.6 days, they could reduce the cost from $62 to $31 per background. And, oh, by the way, the quality of the background was so much better. So those are exciting innovations that the team has done, and they did it together and created one final process. So thank you for all the hard work you've done.
Hi, I'm Mike Papadakis, Deputy Chief Financial Officer and Treasurer at The Ohio State University within the Office of Business and Finance. I'm here today to talk to you about the Enterprise Project. And what it is a strategic transformation across all of our areas, which includes business and finance, HR, payroll, and student. And it's truly a strategic project, first of its kind in the United States. For finance professionals, what does this mean? What it means is access to a much more streamlined system where we're all going to have access to the same data. We'll all have it on our mobile device as well. And we'll essentially have one source of truth, one source of information so that we can all speak the same talk, whether it's to internal constituents or outside parties of The Ohio State University. Turning the clock back, at the beginning of the Enterprise Project, a number of us sat down and laid out a number of guiding principles that we would use as a team going forward on the project. Together, this team created a vision specific to the finance stakeholder experience and what we all hope to get out of this project as a team. One of the main guiding principles is focusing on information availability and strategic decision-making with that information. And what that means is essentially all of us having, again, one source of truth, one source of information that we can all access, so that we're all answering the same question with the same data points, talking the same talk, whether it's internally or externally to the university. Overall, we're going to have a much more modern system that's going to streamline processes, make everyone's job easier on a day-to-day basis, and allow you time to really think about the more strategic parts of the business and the operation to make those decisions rather than focusing on kind of that daily grind, so to speak. Overall, I just want to say thank you to everyone for helping us get this far in the project, and we really look forward to this next phase. Thanks for everything you've done so far, and thank you going forward as well.
Hello, everyone. I'm Holly Ross, one of the business process directors for the project, along with Sarit, who was up here earlier talking about student. I'm going to talk a little bit about finance direction. So in terms of strategic direction, our first goal is streamlined, simplified, standard processes across the university and health system. Very important on the finance side, which was part of what John showed as a larger goal for the entire project. We're looking to try to have units focus less on that transactional work and more on strategic planning, working on data analysis to get us to a point where we can be better at making more educated decisions. So really focusing on getting us to a point where we can do long-range planning, focusing on that aspect much more than sitting there and keying something into a system is our goal to get to. In terms of core financials, that was on the timeline, and you saw it up there for 2019. A lot of times people are asking me, what does that mean? What's core financials? So it's everything that's on this list up here. So you can see we have a very large scope across finance. In terms of 2019, almost everything on here is in scope for then. The only part that still will be more of a stepped approach will be on the planning side, because Workday planning, we have some gaps that we're working with them on those, but we will have certainly parts of that implemented in 2019, and we have another solution, an Oracle EPM solution that we'll be looking at for an interim to help us with that too. And also, just pointing out here on the financial scope, this question comes to me a lot, is grants management. That is in scope, and that's part of the financials piece. And then finally, in terms of deep dives, Natalie mentioned some for the HR side. We do have three areas that we're concentrating on. One is accounts receivable, which is what Jeff was saying, Mike was smiling about this morning. So we're deep diving there. Also in comprehensive capital investment. So everything around project intake and building a capital plan. And then finally, budget planning and forecasting. Hand it over to Chris.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Chris Devine with the Office of Business and Finance. I did want to start out with saying thank you for all the work you guys have done so far. I know this is a heavy lift, and thanks in advance for everything we will be asking of you for the next few years, because it is going to take a village to make this all work. The areas I've been asked to talk about are kind of where do I see big changes coming forward that are going to hopefully optimize the process. One, Holly just mentioned a little bit, is accounts receivable. Today, for those of you who don't work in the accounts receivable area, we have many disaggregated systems, many shadow systems that exist out there. And in many instances, we don't even gather all our receivable data except sporadically and once a year to get a clean audit. And clearly, that's not an optimized process. So we're really looking at what makes sense, which of those subsidiary ledgers that exist today in a very decentralized way could be put into the Workday process, and then what, from an optimization standpoint, really should be integrated for the current system that is appropriately utilized. And so we'll see some big changes from that perspective. Real-time data, real-time collection activity, that kind of stuff is going to optimize the organization in totality. The second area I wanted to mention was grants management. Again, not the most current structure as it exists today relative to a process flow. We know we have a lot of manual processes embedded in that. Moving that to automation, moving it to standardization will be very helpful, kind of moving as much as we can the procurement activity in. Back end of that is to standard as much as we can is helpful, and we've promised Carol on many occasions we will ensure she keeps having a clean audit and we meet compliance requirements, because that's mission critical for a research organization. So we're looking at all of those areas, and then reporting, just for an example, relative to research, making sure PIs have real-time data that isn't kind of by grant, but more their whole portfolio. The central areas, being able to look at what our whole portfolio is in real-time data from awards, applications, expenditures by agency, and a push of the button will be profoundly helpful, and that will, I think, be really helpful for deans and chairs and the college administration also. So I think lots of very exciting opportunities with this system. From that, I'll switch it over to Mark.
Thanks, Chris. Mark Larimore. I'm the CFO for the Medical Center. I think I was here last time we met. So first, thanks to everyone for the work that you've done so far. I think it's we're transitioning into kind of an exciting stage. As once you get into architect, stuff starts to come to life, and then you start to see it a little bit better. And I think some of the decisions that we may have made so far, we get the opportunity to take a look at them and make sure that that's where we want to end up at the end. Certainly, I think the new slogan for the current strategic plan is appropriate for this, and certainly I think I challenged last time for everyone to be open for change. I think if we look at all of the financial systems, and especially focused on the supply chain and procurement side, there are many different silos around the organization, and some of them are big and some of them are small, and certainly some of those small areas, and when you think about the risk that is there and what people worry about and what may keep them up, be open to centralizing and looking at the new ways to do it and shed that risk. I think I do something similar on the IT side with Phyllis, where we look at small shops that carry a lot of risk, and so I always say that whoever has that, pass that risk on to Phyllis, because then she can worry about it and moving forward. So thank you, Phyllis, back there. But I think, we are, if I just focus on the Med Center supply chain side, we are looking to change, and we are taking some risk with it. I think the Workday product is not quite where we want it. So we do have the opportunity to work with them as they design. The inventory management's a big piece of us. You think about how many supplies, quantity and variety of supplies are in the Med Center, and how much comes in to the institution every day. So we do have the opportunity to work with them and hopefully design a product that, I guess, as they roll that out to all of their clients, we can kind of say, hey, this is the OSU inventory management model that we put together with them. So I'll ask you, thanks again for the help, but thanks for continuing to work on this, and keep your minds open, and we do want to hear everyone's ideas as we move forward.
Hi, I'm Dave Kiefer. I'm the Associate Vice President for Administrative Systems in the Office of the CIO. So I want to talk to you today about what the Enterprise Project means to the IT, data analytics, and support communities. With the implementation of cloud software, our processes and technologies will change significantly in these areas. But what we hope to build is technologies that can build the community around these three areas to be stronger than ever. We think the tools and techniques that we'll build will allow all of these areas to get better in their support of the Ohio State community and our support of the mission. The other thing I wanted to highlight today is the connection to the IT strategy. So as we look at the IT strategy, the work of the Enterprise Project hits in almost every area that the IT strategy is promoting in moving IT forward at Ohio State. Specifically, the mobile technology that we're bringing it forward as part of the project will allow users and administrators across campus to use these systems on their mobile devices from wherever they are. Another area of support for the IT strategy is in building the community across the university around IT, data analytics, and support. The last area I wanted to highlight are the guiding principles around the enablement parts of the project. So as you can see here, these are all very important to our work at Ohio State and how we support the mission. And they're part and parcel of everything that we do as part of the project. We really believe in the guiding principles that we've laid out and how they impact the work as we move forward. So one of the questions that we've had is, what is enablement? What does that mean to the project? So the enablement teams as part of the Enterprise Project really are the technology, the support, and the data analytics components of the project. So we'll do the integrations and conversions and reporting pieces of the project. Thanks for a couple minutes of your time to listen to how the Enterprise Project will impact these communities. Please refer to the project website for any updates.
All right, well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Kevin Donahoe. I'm the tech lead on the Enterprise Project. Very happy to be here today representing Dave Kiefer, our enablement lead, and all the great men and women from the enablement team that make my job easy every day, so thank you. Also very happy to be joined on stage with two of our IT leaders here at the university, and do want to introduce them right away. First, from our Wexner Medical Center, Chief Information Officer, Associate Vice President Phyllis Teeter. And from the university, Chief Information Officer, Vice President Mike Hoffer. So as you've heard from Dave and from John earlier, the enablement team is all about improving business capabilities through data, technology, and support to perform Ohio State's mission. Because it's not always clear what we do on the enablement team, I do want to take just a brief second to talk about the first three bullets on this slide, as they represent kind of the three teams in our organization. So first, business intelligence, analytics, and reporting, led by Steve Fisher. They're all about implementing new data governance processes and next generation data platforms and tools that will enable a data strategy in a mobile environment that will allow our user community access to the data they need, when they need it, from where they need it. What you're going to see from them in the next phase, I kind of saw earlier, is really confirming their requirements and starting to build out the technical components that will comprise their architecture in the Workday world. Second, operational design, led by Dave Kiefer. Just as you've heard, this is a transformational project. That group is charged with transforming how we support the people, processes, and systems in our new operating model. What you're going to see from them in the next phase is building on their plan of foundation recommendations by further defining the details of each of the subgroups that will make up our future operating design. And finally, data and application management. That's my team. And we're kind of all things. We're going to be converting your legacy data to PeopleSoft, integrating into Workday, integrating Workday with our internal and external campus partners, building custom systems outside of Workday, where when Workday doesn't meet the business needs, as well as enabling mobile technologies, and doing all these things in a fashion that ensures our systems are accessible, secure, and that our processes and systems aren't presenting risks and vulnerabilities to the university. So with that, I'd like to hand the floor to Phyllis and Mike to talk about some of the notable improvements coming from our team.
Thanks, Kevin. Again, I'm Phyllis Teeter, and I have oversight for technology and medical information management and apparently risk, according to my boss. So thank you, Mark. I was going to talk about some of our improvements, but first I want to really thank all of you and thank you for all the work. I know it's been a lot of coordination. It's kind of herding cats. And we really appreciate that and really appreciate the partnership for the Medical Center and the university to work on this together. and think about how we come together with some of our processes and streamline many things across the university. First, I'll talk a little bit about governance. Some of you know that we went from a whole bunch of systems and a whole bunch of decentralized areas at the medical center to one integrated system with one electronic medical record. It's just how now we serve our patients. It was tough how to bring that together. The beauty of an integrated system is you change it for one area and it changes for all of them. The difficulty is you need to make decisions together. And that takes a governance process where you can understand the individual needs of users, the big departments that are impacted by this system, clearly finance, HR, purchasing, and student operations, and then you have to make a decision how to put that together so that you have a system that functions across all the areas and folks don't break each other. It takes a lot of coordination, communication, and working together. And we've built some models at the medical center and made some mistakes that we're going to try to help as we think about how to do this here at the university-wide, not to make. I'm sure, though, that there'll be bumps along the road. Also, I talk a little bit about integrations. As many of you be aware, we have many years of working on our current platform, and those years can create sort of a spaghetti diagram of how you paste all the systems together. And unraveling that, understanding it, and building the right ones in a planful way for our next iteration of systems is really important work. We know there'll still be many systems, and they have to talk to each other well, and they have to help us support the business. Now I'll turn it over to Mike, who's going to talk about a couple of other improvements.
Sure. Thanks, Phyllis. Thank you to everyone. Thank you to John and the project team. It's been a lift. Thank you for saving the best for last. So that's no worries. I'm going to bring it home here. So I'm sure you're all wondering about data analytics, and I'm sure you want to know what some of the notable improvements around data and analytics we are and what we're going to do there. So the first one I'd like to emphasize is the standardization and simplification of data models. I think you've heard this word a lot, standardize and simplify. I say this every day. Our job is to make environments that make people successful. And the way we do that is making people's jobs easier a lot of times. So we think the standardizing of those data models is going to help. I think another big step we're going to make is an institutional-wide platform for data analysis. The software enables us to do that. Which really puts us in a different place than we are right now. The big benefit is we stop doing this trick-or-treating approach to finding data. And I think it's one of the things that if you are out there and you are looking for data and you have to do this, I'm looking at my colleagues on the stage and some of you in the audience that I know do this on a daily basis, this is one of the most time-consuming processes we have at this university. Who has that data? Where's that piece of data? Can I have that data? No. Well, why not? Now I got to go ask my boss to ask your boss to give me that piece of data, right? And then in the end, it doesn't match anyway. So, we got to get better at this, and this is hopefully, what the project will do. So the time it takes to do that and the accuracy of which we'll gather that data as well. Workday talks about this democratization of data, and that's the term that they use, and I think that's something that we have to start to get comfortable with, and there's positives to that, all the things I just mentioned, and there's negatives to that as well, and you need a shift in skill set, and you need a shift in resources on how you understand that data and what you do with that data moving forward. So all of this will enable the strategic plan. You heard Dr. McPherson talk about this earlier. How we move towards those goals in the strategic plan and how those things are measured are going to take, clearly defined processes and clearly defined efforts. And again, these data sets will help us do that. It's going to take a village. I think you've heard that theme as well. So, coordinated efforts across, all areas, distributed IT, college, VPs, areas, to really drive the consistency of that data. The system will only be as good as the data we put into it. and it's going to be a huge step for us going forward. So again, thanks everybody for their effort. Doesn't tell me what to do next, John, but I'm assuming this wraps up this portion of the program.
Thank you.
Right?
I'm going to take it.
over
Round
to
of
Ann.
applause.
Yeah.
So I want to thank all of our business sponsors for being with us today and for sharing their perception of what's going on in their work streams. It's valuable information for all of us. We've had several questions come in online, and we are going to answer them through our website, but because we're running out of time and I want people to sleep at night, I'm going to ask John one question that came in specifically. I'm sorry I can't get to ask everybody a question because there are more. But the one question that came in is, does more efficiency mean fewer positions? And I think that's a good one for us to transition to and then allow John to close the program.
Oh, shoot, they're gone.
You're there alone.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's why I'm over here. Of course not. I mean, the real answer to that question is that this will give us the ability to do more strategic activities, to do what Mike Hoffer was just describing, where you're able to do analytics and be able to do more analysis. So that is, and if you were here in March, that actually came up and Jeff Chattis addressed that point as well too. So our goal is to leverage from a project perspective, our goal is to leverage the software as best as possible and to put individuals, to put this workforce into a position where they can take care of the administrative activities, but also be more strategic in their day-to-day activities. Okay, we do have to wrap it up. Before we do that, though, there's been a lot of thank yous, and that is great. I actually want to thank two groups that really do a lot of heavy lifting for us. It is the ESC team. I'll give you a quick story. About a week ago, we meet with them every 2 weeks, and that's a lot that we're asking them to meet with us. And in between meetings, one of my ESC members said, "John, I got 10 plus emails from you just in that 2-week period." So not only do we work with them closely at these meetings, but we also work with them outside it. So we thank you for all your time. Also, the enterprise sponsors. That group we met with every week during the first phase of the project, and then they were very involved in a lot of activities. So we thank that group as well too for all your heavy lifting that you've done so far and will continue to do. Okay, we have a new website. It's interesting. I was on a conversation. I get pulled in a lot of conversations now with other universities that are thinking about doing this, and they always compliment our website. And then I said, "Oh, by the way, it's even going to be better because we've updated it." And so please check it out. The OCM team has done a tremendous job of further enhancing a good product that we utilize and we will continue to utilize in a very effective way moving forward. And then lastly, my ask of you, of all of you, is that we cannot, Chris mentioned the village, right? We cannot do this without you. We need you to stay connected to the project. We need you to continue to ask those questions. We need you to push us as it relates to best practices and thinking out of the box when it comes to this. We need you to champion the changes. The change will be a lot. There will be heavy lifting, but we need individuals that will help us to champion that, to understand the impact and work with us as we go forward. And we need your insights. We needed it during the first phase. I think Mark Larimore mentioned about this is the phase where we get in and we get to start to see stuff, get to see more stuff. We need those insights that all of you can provide. So with that being said, we're 2 minutes over, but hopefully you were okay with that. Thank you for your time. Give us the feedback on this session because we're going to continue to do this. Thanks. Have a nice rest of the day.